The great chamber of the Galactic Council was louder than usual. Hundreds of alien representatives filled the giant circular hall. Bright lights reflected off strange armor, scales, and metal skin. Every species in the galaxy had come to hear the same strange message. A warning from Earth. For many cycles, humanity had been quiet. Humans traded with nearby systems, explored small parts of space, and rarely joined galactic conflicts. Compared to the ancient empires of the galaxy, Earth was still considered a young civilization. That was why the message confused everyone. At the center of the chamber, a large holographic screen appeared. The face of a human diplomat stood calmly before the council. The human did not look nervous. He looked patient. The translator drones repeated his message across hundreds of languages. Humanity brings a simple message to the galaxy. For many years, we have chosen peace. We have chosen cooperation instead of war. The chamber was silent. Then the human continued. But understand this clearly. Humanity has been holding back. We ask the galaxy not to test our limits. The message ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the chamber exploded with laughter. One tall reptilian ambassador from the powerful Zerath Dominion leaned forward and slammed his clawed hand on the table. Humans, giving warnings, he hissed loudly. A species that joined the galaxy only a few decades ago dares to threaten us. Several other alien delegates laughed in agreement. Another representative spoke from the upper platform. Your fleets are small, the alien said. Your territory is tiny. Compared to the ancient empires, you are children. The human diplomat simply watched them. He did not argue. He did not raise his voice. Instead, he calmly spoke one final sentence. This message is not a threat. It is a warning. Then the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, news networks quickly spread the story. Most civilizations found it amusing. Some called it arrogance. Others simply ignored it. But one empire did not laugh. The Zerath Dominion. Their leaders saw an opportunity instead. Inside a massive command fortress on their homeworld, Zerath warlords gathered around a tactical display. The image of Earth's nearby colonies glowed on the screen. A general with dark metal armor spoke first. Humans are expanding quickly, he said. Their trade routes grow stronger each cycle. If we allow them to grow, they may become a real threat one day. Another warlord nodded slowly. Then we remove them now. The decision was simple. A massive fleet was assembled within days. Thousands of Zerath warships gathered near the edge of human space. Their engines burned bright as they prepared for invasion. To them, it would be a short war. A quick lesson for a young species that had forgotten its place. Far away, on Earth, human command centers had already detected the movement. Inside a large control room filled with screens and officers, the atmosphere was calm but serious. The approaching Zerath fleet was clearly visible on the main display. One young officer looked nervous. That fleet is enormous, she said quietly. A senior commander stood beside the display with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm. Yes, he said. Should we mobilize the defense fleets? Another officer asked. The commander thought for a moment. Then he gave a different order. Send them the final message. Moments later, a signal was broadcast across space toward the approaching Zerath fleet. The message was also sent to the Galactic Council. It was short, clear, and impossible to misunderstand. This is Earth Command. You are entering restricted human territory. Humanity has warned the galaxy before. There was a brief pause before the final sentence was transmitted. This is your last warning. Turn back now. In the Zerath command ship, the alien generals listened to the message. Then they laughed. One of them shut off the transmission with a sharp motion of his claw. Humans still believe we fear them, he said. The fleet continued moving forward. Thousands of warships crossed the border into human space. On Earth, the command room became quiet. The commander watched the display for several seconds. Then he nodded slowly. Well, he said calmly, they made their choice. Around him, several officers exchanged serious looks. Deep within human territory, far beyond the outer colonies, something ancient and powerful began to wake. Hidden shipyards activated. Massive reactors came online. And across the dark space between stars, thousands of silent signals suddenly appeared on the scanners. Humanity had tried to warn them. Now the galaxy was about to learn why. The Zerath Dominion fleet moved deeper into human space without slowing down. Thousands of warships traveled in perfect formation, their engines glowing red in the darkness. To them, the invasion was already won. Human territory looked weak. There were only a few defense stations and small patrol ships near the border. Nothing that could stop a full Dominion fleet. Inside the Zerath flagship, the warlords watched the tactical screen with confidence. One officer spoke with amusement. So this is the species that warned the galaxy. Another officer laughed. Their defenses are almost empty. The Zerath commander leaned back in his command throne. His voice was calm but proud. Humans wanted to scare us with words. Soon the galaxy will see what happens to species that make empty threats. The order was given. Prepare the first strike. Within seconds, hundreds of Zerath warships locked their weapons onto the nearest human colony station. Plasma cannons glowed brightly as power flowed through the massive weapons. Then the fleet fired. Bright beams of energy crossed the darkness of space. But something strange happened. The human station did not fire back. Instead, the station suddenly powered down its weapons and shields. Its engines activated, slowly moving it away from the battlefield. The Zerath officers looked confused. Are they retreating? One officer asked. The commander frowned. That makes no sense. At the same moment, human patrol ships also began pulling back deeper into their territory. They did not fight. They did not defend. They simply moved away. To the Zerath commanders, it looked like fear. Humans are running, the commander said with a smile. Increase speed. We push forward. The fleet continued advancing. But far behind the front lines of human space, something far more important was happening. Hidden inside massive asteroid fields, giant metal structures slowly opened like sleeping giants waking up. Secret shipyards came online. Lights filled enormous underground docks. And inside those docks, thousands of warships began powering up. These ships had never appeared on galactic records. They were never seen by spies or explorers. Because humanity had hidden them very carefully. For decades. Massive reactors hummed as energy flooded through the ships. Weapon systems activated one by one. Advanced engines began glowing with blue light. Artificial intelligence systems woke from standby. Across human space, a single command signal spread through thousands of hidden networks. One simple order. Defense Protocol Omega, remove combat limits. Back near the border, the Zerath fleet suddenly detected something unusual on their scanners. One officer leaned closer to his display. Commander. I am detecting multiple signals. How many? The commander asked without concern. The officer hesitated. Thousands. The commander stood up immediately. That is impossible. New signals continued appearing across the scanner. 10,000. 20,000. More. Ships were emerging from every direction. From asteroid belts. From hidden stations. From areas of space that had looked completely empty minutes before. The Zerath commander felt a cold feeling in his chest. How did we miss this? He whispered. Then the long-range scanners detected the first group of incoming ships. They were enormous. Some were the size of cities. Others carried weapon systems larger than entire Zerath cruisers. And they were moving fast. Very fast. Back on Earth, the command center watched the same information appear on their screens. One officer spoke quietly. All fleets have activated. The senior commander nodded. For years humanity had avoided galactic wars. They traded, negotiated, and tried to live peacefully with other civilizations. But they had never stopped preparing. Human history had taught them one simple truth. Peace does not last forever. The commander finally gave the order he hoped he would never need to use. Send the message to the fleet. A new signal was transmitted across human battle networks. It contained only 3 words. Humanity no longer holds back. Moments later, the first human dreadnoughts entered the battlefield. And for the first time in galactic history, the Zerath Dominion fleet began to realize something terrifying. They had not invaded a weak species. They had awakened a sleeping giant. The darkness of space near the human border slowly filled with new signals. On the Zerath fleet scanners, red warning lights began flashing everywhere. Thousands of unknown ships were appearing. The Zerath commander stared at the tactical display, his confident expression slowly disappearing. This cannot be correct, he said quietly. But the scanners did not lie. Human warships were arriving from every direction. Some came from asteroid belts. Others appeared from deep space where no ships had been detected before. It was as if the humans had hidden an entire navy inside the shadows of the galaxy. One Zerath officer spoke with fear in his voice. Commander, their fleet numbers are increasing every second. The display now showed tens of thousands of human ships. Not small patrol vessels. Warships. Massive dreadnoughts with heavy armor and weapon systems that looked far more advanced than anything the Zerath Dominion had ever seen. The Zerath commander quickly gave new orders. All ships prepare defensive formation. Charge main weapons. The fleet quickly reorganized. Thousands of alien ships turned toward the incoming human fleet. Plasma cannons began glowing as energy flowed into their weapons. The Zerath Dominion had conquered dozens of systems before. They had fought many wars. But they had never faced something like this. On the other side of the battlefield, the human fleet continued moving forward in perfect formation. Inside the human flagship HFS Aegis, the bridge was calm. Large holographic displays showed the enemy fleet clearly. Officers watched quietly while fleet commanders studied the battlefield. One young officer asked carefully, "All fleets are in position, Admiral." The Admiral stood near the center of the bridge with his arms behind his back. His face was calm, almost emotionless. For many years humanity had avoided conflicts with other civilizations. They believed cooperation was better than war. But humans had also learned something important from their own history. If war comes, it must end quickly. The Admiral looked at the display of the massive Zerath fleet. Did they respond to the final warning? He asked. No, Admiral, the communications officer replied. The Admiral nodded slowly. Very well. He turned toward the command crew. Authorize full combat capability. Across thousands of human ships, the same order appeared instantly. Combat restrictions removed. Human weapon systems began powering to levels that had never been used before. Energy reactors roared to life. Advanced targeting systems locked onto thousands of enemy ships at the same time. Back inside the Zerath flagship, panic was slowly spreading. Commander, human weapons are charging. How powerful are they? The commander asked. The officer looked confused. Our scanners cannot measure the energy levels. Before the commander could respond, a bright blue light suddenly appeared across the battlefield. The first human dreadnought fired. A massive beam of energy crossed space in an instant. 3 Zerath cruisers were cut in half before their shields even reacted. Silence filled the Zerath command bridge. Then dozens of human ships fired. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The battlefield exploded with light. Human railguns launched projectiles at impossible speeds. Energy beams sliced through alien shields like they were not even there. Missiles moved with terrifying precision, striking enemy ships one after another. Entire Zerath formations disappeared within seconds. The Zerath commander watched in horror as the tactical display changed rapidly. Red icons representing Zerath ships were vanishing across the screen. "Return fire," he shouted desperately. The Zerath fleet responded immediately. Thousands of plasma weapons fired toward the human ships. But something strange happened again. Human ships moved faster than expected. Their defensive systems blocked attacks that should have destroyed them. And their weapons were far stronger. Much stronger. Within minutes, hundreds of Zerath ships were gone. The once powerful invasion fleet was already collapsing. Inside the human flagship, the admiral watched the battle silently. An officer reported the situation. "Enemy fleet losing formation. Their front lines are collapsing." Another officer added, "Their command ships are attempting to retreat." The admiral finally spoke. "Allow them to see." The officer looked confused. "See what, Admiral?" The admiral looked back at the battlefield. "Why, we warned them." Outside the flagship, even larger human warships were now arriving. Gigantic dreadnoughts. Supercarriers. Ships so large they cast shadows across the battlefield. When the Zerath fleet detected the new arrivals, fear spread through every command channel. The alien commander whispered one final sentence. "We should have listened to the warning." But it was too late. Humanity was no longer holding back. And the galaxy was about to witness the true power of a species that had spent centuries preparing for war. The battle near the human border was no longer a battle. It had become a collapse. Across the battlefield, pieces of destroyed Zerath ships floated in the darkness. Burning metal drifted slowly through space while emergency signals echoed across every communication channel. The Zerath Dominion fleet had entered the fight with thousands of warships. Now, half of them were gone. Inside the Zerath flagship, the command bridge had fallen into chaos. "Commander, our third defense line has been destroyed. Multiple Dreadnought-class human ships approaching. Shield systems failing." Reports came faster than anyone could answer them. The Zerath commander gripped the edge of his command console, his claws pressing deep into the metal surface. Just hours ago, he had believed this invasion would be easy. Now his fleet was being erased. On the massive tactical display, human ships continued appearing across the battlefield. Their formation was perfect, their movements precise. They were not fighting like a desperate species defending their home. They were fighting like professionals who had done this many times before. "How many ships have we lost?" the commander asked quietly. One officer checked the numbers with shaking hands. "Over 40% of the fleet, destroyed." Silence filled the bridge. Even worse, the humans were not slowing down. Their weapons fired with terrifying accuracy. Their ships moved like a single mind, surrounding Zerath formations and cutting them apart piece by piece. For the first time, the Zerath commander felt something he had never experienced in battle before. Fear. Meanwhile, far away from the battlefield, the rest of the galaxy had started watching. News signals from the battle were spreading rapidly through the galactic network. Civilizations that once laughed at humanity's warning were now staring at their screens in shock. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, silence had replaced the earlier laughter. The giant holographic display showed the battle in real time. Zerath warships were exploding one after another. And human fleets kept arriving. One council member spoke slowly. "This cannot be their full fleet." Another representative replied nervously. "If it is not, Then how many ships does humanity actually have? No one had an answer. Back at the battlefield, the Zerath fleet was beginning to break apart. Some ships tried to retreat. Others attempted desperate attacks against the human dreadnoughts. None of it worked. Human warships seemed prepared for every move. Inside the human flagship HFS Aegis, the command bridge remained calm. Officers quietly monitored the battlefield while the fleet advanced. Enemy fleet integrity dropping rapidly, one officer reported. 70% of their ships have lost combat capability. The admiral looked at the screen without emotion. Have they attempted surrender? He asked. No, Admiral. The admiral sighed slightly. Then continue. Outside the flagship, something even more terrifying appeared. 3 enormous human super dreadnoughts exited warp space. These ships were far larger than the others. Their armor looked thicker than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive weapon arrays covered their hulls like mountains of metal. When the Zerath fleet detected the ships, panic spread instantly. Commander, new human warships detected. How large? The officer hesitated before answering. Larger than our flagship. The Zerath commander slowly sat down. He finally understood something terrible. Humanity had not sent their strongest forces at the beginning of the battle. They had only sent enough ships to win. And now even more were arriving. One final report appeared on the tactical screen. Zerath fleet combat capability, 18%. The commander stared at the number. The once mighty Dominion fleet was almost gone. He closed his eyes for a moment. We should have listened, he whispered. Outside, the giant human super dreadnoughts fired their first weapons. 3 massive beams of light crossed the battlefield. Entire Zerath formations vanished instantly. The remaining alien ships scattered in every direction, trying to escape. But human fleets had already surrounded them. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, one elder representative finally spoke the words that everyone was thinking. The humans were not threatening the galaxy. He looked at the destruction on the screen. They were warning us. And now the entire galaxy understood something they had ignored before. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been choosing peace. Until the galaxy forced them to choose war. The battle was over. In the cold darkness of space, the remains of the Zerath Dominion fleet floated silently. Broken warships drifted slowly among clouds of metal and burning debris. Emergency signals from damaged ships echoed across every channel, but there was no longer any organized fleet left to answer them. The once powerful Zerath invasion force had been destroyed. Human warships now filled the battlefield. Thousands of ships moved calmly through the wreckage, scanning the area and securing the region. Their engines glowed softly as they formed large defensive formations around the border of human space. Inside the human flagship HFS Aegis, the command bridge remained quiet. The admiral stood before the large holographic display showing the final battle report. Enemy fleet status, he asked. An officer looked up from the console. Zerath Dominion fleet neutralized, Admiral. Less than 5% of their ships remain operational. Another officer added, the remaining ships are attempting to retreat toward Zerath territory. The admiral nodded slowly. Allow them to retreat. The officers looked slightly surprised. We are not pursuing them, one asked. The admiral shook his head. No. He looked at the battlefield again. They came here to learn a lesson. He paused. They have learned it. Across the galaxy, the news of the battle had already spread everywhere. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives from hundreds of civilizations sat in stunned silence. The same hall that had once laughed at humanity's warning was now filled with fear. The giant screen still showed images from the battlefield. Human ships. Thousands of them. Some were so large they looked like floating cities. One council member finally spoke. This war lasted less than a day. Another representative answered quietly. And the Zerath Dominion lost their entire invasion fleet. No one in the chamber could deny what they had just seen. Humanity was far stronger than anyone had believed. For years, humans had traded peacefully with other civilizations. They had avoided galactic conflicts and stayed inside their own territory. Now the galaxy understood why. Humans were peaceful by choice. Not because they were weak. Suddenly, a new transmission appeared in the center of the council chamber. The screen activated. A human representative appeared on the holographic display. It was the same diplomat who had delivered the original warning. This time, no one laughed. Every alien representative listened carefully. The human spoke calmly. The conflict between humanity and the Zerath Dominion has ended. The invading fleet has been defeated. The chamber remained silent. The human continued. Before this conflict began, humanity sent a warning to the galaxy. That warning was ignored. He paused for a moment. We did not want this war. The human looked directly at the council representatives. But humanity will always defend itself. No one interrupted him. No one questioned his words. The entire galaxy had already seen the proof. The human finished with one final sentence. Let this be a lesson the galaxy remembers. Then the transmission ended. Back on Earth, the human fleets slowly began returning to their stations and shipyards. Warships that had remained hidden for decades disappeared once again into secret docks and asteroid bases. The galaxy watched every movement carefully. No civilization wanted to make the same mistake again. Months later, trade routes reopened. Diplomats returned to peaceful negotiations. The galaxy slowly returned to normal life. But something had changed forever. Humanity was no longer seen as a small, young species. They were now respected. And feared. Across countless star systems, leaders repeated the same words whenever someone mentioned challenging Earth. Remember what happened to the Zerath Dominion. Because the entire galaxy had learned a truth that day. Humanity was one of the most peaceful civilizations in space. But only because they chose to be. And if anyone ever ignored another human warning, the galaxy now knew exactly what would happen next.